I was originally scheduled for an abortion on Concord Avenue at the Planned Parenthood that used to be there, and right across the street was Hope Resource Center. And the Planned Parenthood is no longer there, but Hope Resource is still there. Any kind of like speaking around abortion, there will be people that might say things like it would have been okay, like if you had been aborted, you would have not known anything at all. There would have not been any indication of your existence. So it doesn't matter. God took me out of really strange situations. God rescued me from being stalked by somebody who was in a sex trafficking gang. All in all, He is a God that looks after us in every circumstance. Hi, my name is Melody Simmons. I'm the daughter of Karen Knapp. This is my testimony from when I was saved by Hope Resource Center through God's will of finding me and my mom in a really difficult situation. And I was originally scheduled for an abortion on Concord Avenue at the Planned Parenthood that used to be there. And right across the street was Hope Resource Center. And the Planned Parenthood is no longer there, but Hope Resource is still there. The same exact building that my mom went into 23 years ago in just about a week. I was scheduled to be aborted on August 9th, 2000, and I am just so grateful, so thankful to God for how He allowed me to live so many fantastic years and met so many beautiful, incredible, fantastic people. I have had such a fantastic life that could never, the prayers that I remember praying when I first became a believer, I see that God answered all of them, and even better than I could have hoped. Even if they were no's, even if they were, I have something different in mind, they all turned out so much greater than I could have ever have even asked Him for. And I am so thankful that He saw in a lowly situation, He saw so much more, and He turned it into all that He has, because I could have never wanted for anything. There was never a moment that, except when I remember walking up to my mom as she was a single mother and me bringing a little card to her that I got at my grandparents, being like, "Mama, this is a puppy. Could you get me a puppy?" Or so, like, that's all I remember, like, ever really wanting for, and like not even have to wait around very long for. And personally, as I've gotten older, I've experienced so many moments where God has come through and providing the greatest friends in a lifetime that I could sit around with and cry with and just have greatest joy with, and share many conversations that I still love remembering to this day, back in my early teen years. And He's been so faithful to get me through some difficult situations. And it's tough, because as I've gotten older too, I have understood that when it comes to the topic or any kind of like speaking around abortion, there will be people that might say things like, well, it would have been okay, like if you had been aborted, you would have not known anything at all. There would have not been any indication of your existence. So it doesn't matter. So I have been personally told that by people that I have known in my life, people that I considered friends. And online people can be even more intensive about it, and they do not care response or anything like that, or how it might hurt you on the other side of the screen. And it's really tough when you start getting into those conversations with people, because you do realize that it is a numbness that has come upon them, and they can't even pour out their hearts to feel and understand what is happening to a baby when they are aborted. And I've had really great conversations in the past where I actually found out there's a lot of people that don't actually know what happens in an abortion, and to be able to tell them that, the same heart that was beating in my chest at the time when my mom found out she was pregnant with me, she actually found out earlier than people usually do about their pregnancy. She found out with me, but to be able to tell them that there were, either saline swallowing, my insides would have been burnt from the inside outwards, some of the same insides I have now. And a lot of intensive, crazy stuff, like my limbs being torn apart. When people hear those things, it does make them, you do see something in their eyes where they are like, that's something that actually happens. And I think people, they just don't know enough that is something, that is the exact way that these babies are being taken. And so it's been a really great opportunity to have some really good conversations with people out there who have their own formed opinions about these things. And God has been just so faithful to just give me just an excitement, and people in my life that have been encouraging to me in the situations that we found ourselves in when I was younger, because it is also common to be just neglected, like when somebody finds out that you don't know your biological father. I have been called a not so great word like child many times. I've been referred to that. And so but it is one thing that kind of makes me laugh, though, like when I think of that word and I think of being called that, because I also know that, Jesus was thought of as the lowly of the lowliest, and he was in the worst situations among any of us could have been found. And I am so glad that God made that a part of the gospel, because it's the most beautiful story of all time, and Jesus is the most compassionate of all time. I am so excited because I have so many moments that I can share with people now where God took me out of really strange situations that did not seem as if they should have gone well. And back when I was 16, I actually started driving, and around the time that I turned 17, I arrived to a moment in my life that was very scary, where God rescued me from being stalked by somebody who was in a sex trafficking gang. They had actually been following me for 9 months, and I did not know about it at all. I did not know whatsoever what was happening. And this is just one of a couple of situations where, honestly, I should have been taken into a whole different realm of life and not been saved from it. He was found by our neighbors, because we actually live on a really good part of the street where it's at a corner of a street in the middle of our neighborhood. And at the time, the 9 months prior, we had houses being built across the street, and they were being built on, and I walked out of my garage, and we live in this valley, so it was really loud, and you just notice it as you walk out the garage. Anybody that's standing there will notice you. And I looked over, and this house being built was being worked on by these people, and they looked over at me, and I was like, well, I'm going to be really rude if I don't wave at them. And so I waved at them just to say hello, and got in my car and went on my way, and I didn't think about it again. And there at the springtime, it was at this point, my neighbors called my parents and were like, oh my gosh, there's this car outside your house that we've recognized, and they're just sitting outside your house. They've been there for 2 hours. And my mom wasn't at home at the time, but it was me and my dad there at the house. And he had an experience 2 weeks prior where this guy had come up to the door and was asking him to give him directions to a car mechanic shop nearby. But really, our area is just covered with neighborhoods. There's not a car mechanic place within 3 miles of where we lived. And so my dad is like, buddy, you're in the wrong place, like completely. And my dog was shying up, which he is not that kind of dog. He's a very friendly dog. And so my dad was like, I this is the place I know of that's the closest by. And the guy was like, oh, well, I'm really exhausted. Before I go, can I come inside? Can I have some water? And my dad is like, you definitely can have water, but please don't come inside. And so the guy stands out there on the porch. My dad gets water for him, and that is over. And 2 weeks later, this same guy is in a car at the end of our driveway. It's that guy that is in his car, and the neighbors are calling my parents, letting them know what they're seeing. And the little did this guy know is those neighbors had been former FBI agents, and they had their windows open all the time, so they saw everything, including our driveway and our house, all the time. And then he also didn't know that our neighbor on this side of us, on the other side of the street, was a police chief, and then the neighbor on the left side of us was a police chief, and then the neighbor behind us was were firefighters, both of them a couple. And he did not know that we were surrounded by fantastic neighbors that were very very loving into our lives and very included, and we had a great community. It's just assets for how important close, good, compassionate community is. He had been sitting out there for 2 hours in his car, and when my dad came out there to confront him, we also had our neighbors come out, and because of their ability to arrest him in that moment, right then and there, they were not able to tell us much, but they did allow my parents to know, just out of my parents being extremely concerned in the moment, that they did find out that his car had been stolen. He was a 17-year-old man who had come into the country illegally, and out of desperation paid so much money and joined a cartel. He had been following me for the whole entire 9 months, and he had hundreds of pictures of me on his phone. He knew exactly where I had been pretty much every day, and known where I went to school. He knew where I worked. I started to actually recognize his car at this point, and a couple weeks prior, I was starting to pick up like, oh, I had seen that car already, and that's really strange. Like, I guess like it's just one of those people that you kind of carry out the same daily routine as, and so you'll see them and you'll see their car, but I hadn't put together that what was happening. And he had gone down. Some of our other neighbors had seen him in the pond in the neighborhood next door to us, and he had been doing a part of our ritual where he was bathing himself before coming up. And what was a part of his ritual was he was actually supposed to come to my dad David, who was seen as my authority, and he had a machete with him, and what he was supposed to do was to actually get rid of my dad, get rid of my authority, which was a part of me and would protect me, and then take me, and who knows where I would have been after that. That is a story I've not really shared with very many people at all. Like, it's only been a handful of people that I can think of until this point. But it's been difficult to share because I also know that it is a very, very touchy aspect of life, and there's so much in all of that, and it's just I'm not sure what all has happened to him, and I certainly dealt with I dealt with a tiny bit of with maybe not a tiny bit, but some trauma feeling after that, of just being, worried, like, oh, what if a friend sees me out and about, and sees me out and about, and they're like, oh, that girl, like, she's the reason our friend is gone. Or if he ever sees me again, if he if we're ever around each other again, like what would happen. God was so incredible to just allow for our neighbors to be so compassionate and understanding of the situation. And with my mom's testimony, I see such a way of how God just turned my life and blessed her through my own life in telling her, Karen, I know that this happened to you in your life, and I see now, like, and I see that you have ached and you have had serious, severe pain, and I will not allow that to happen for your daughter, and I will turn around the situation. And it is one of those things where you do see so much heartache in this life, but you also know that He is a faithful God, and if you know that He intends all things that He does decide for you for the greatest, for the better, He will continue to hold you within His grasp and not let you go. And with this experience, I am just so sure of that that Jesus is continuously watching over us and that angels are continuously watching over us. I know even that man, that 17-year-old guy, the same age as I was, I know, I'm not sure what he was thinking in his car those 2 hours. He was in a daze when they all approached him. He did not seem like he was there. And, but I do know that God has such a life plan for all of us, and I know that His decisions were poor, and I hope that wherever he is, like if he is anywhere, that he is doing okay and that he is all right. But I just hope that he felt compassion. He felt the compassion of Jesus and the presence of Jesus anywhere after that moment, enough for him to know that he could spend eternity with God. I'm at that time I was a little bit tormented by what had happened, and I did decide, like, there are people I can't be around anymore because I don't want them to be harmed by this situation. This is an embarrassing situation. There are people I shouldn't tell about this because I probably will just seem kind of arrogant that I didn't absorb what was happening, or I didn't know it all. But the thing is when you have a God as we do, you don't have to be really necessarily, you don't have to be naive or anything. Like, He will reveal things to you as they come, and you should see them, and you should be like, oh, okay, I've picked up on this. Like, He's allowed me to see this. He's given me wisdom to be like, oh, you shouldn't maybe do that around that time, and and that might not be so safe or so. But really, all in all, He is a God that looks after us, and in every circumstance. And so really, at that time, I don't think anything could be handled differently. He was there in every moment. I have so much peace now, and the experience is like one of just, it encourages me now completely. It's just complete encouragement because of who He is. I am really hoping to get in contact with people at Hope Resource Center better than I have been in this last little bit. With school finishing up, it's been a really great moment and chance to go and actually visit the Hope Resource Center that I was brought to with Mama, and that we were at so much even before I was born. And I have already connected with some of the women there, and am so excited to actually start working with them very soon as a volunteer, to be there with women and babies that have found themselves in the same situation, or maybe worse than what me and my mom had found ourselves, and show them the love of Jesus and show them the same compassion that he showed me and Mama many times and trillions of times all these years, and to allow them to know that they will go on to do even greater things than we've ever done in this life, and that they are called to so much more than what some people might be convinced will be for them and will happen for them. Because many of the things that people said would happen for us and outcomes, none of them happened. All the horrendous outcomes that were predicted before didn't happen. And I've even had some really dear people into me in my life that are really heavily into research and stuff, and they've told me, like, Melody, how your situation and where you were at when you were born, all the predicting things and studies says that you should have not been where you ended up. What happened to you should have not happened. And I honestly, could have, or what research says, I should have been out on the street within by the time I was 10. I should have, I really should have been in drugs and alcohol and all sorts of stuff very easily. All kinds of just really tough stuff to deal with in life. Like, I should have had it all happen to me, and none of it did. And so, and that is all by the grace of God and God's ability to just continuously speak to me and have the ability to continuously just tell me, Melody, I know your heart is aching severely right now, and I know you could easily choose something other, but please choose me, and please know that I will turn this, and eventually. But he always turned the situation even quicker than I could have even asked him. I was like, oh, okay, God, I will do this. I know it will probably be a couple years until this is resolved, but it was always quicker, and it was always better. And you might be finding yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, well, I've already, done this, so I might as well just keep going. But no, like, you don't have to. You don't have to. And it's just a part of your amazing, incredible, neat story. And I think I'm just excited to be with women in their ick. I'm excited to be with women in their heartache. I'm excited to help them know that the heartache that they're feeling will only triple, actually more than triple, the blessing and the goodness that will come into their life because of God and the abundance that he allows for all of us. And so I'm so excited to join Hope Resource and their organization. And I also do want to say, like, it's so wonderful to have conversation and pray for and be with women who have had abortion and deal with immense heartache and all of that, because it does create huge heartache for women and men too. There's been so many people who've suffered immensely because of these decisions, and even God gave me a really great chance about a year ago to one of my professors at school. Actually, she, on introduction day to class, I should say the day before, I was actually here at my parents' church for our young adults group, and our pastor's wife actually came up to share her testimony that evening. And she also told us, you know what, something has been really heavy on my heart by God, and I needed to tell you, somebody in this room, or a couple people maybe, are going to have a conversation tomorrow with someone about abortion, and they're going to need to share with them the other options and the hope, and provide with them this knowledge and stuff. And so the next day I started my next course for the summer, And my professor actually began the class by telling us about herself and what she had been up to and what she was doing currently. And she actually told us that she was the Planned Parenthood president of Knoxville for 20 years up until that point. So she either was the president the year that I was supposed to be aborted in the abortion clinic or the year after. And so I was able to actually, she was, talking about Planned Parenthood and what it stood for and stuff, but then she kind of really talked down on pregnancy crisis centers. And I was able, during that class period when I got a chance, when we really did talk about, because Roe versus Wade was actually released the week before, so she actually did speak about it for a while, and we were able to actually share our opinions at one point, and I was able to share with the class about my experience, and that Planned Parenthood that she had actually overlooked was the place where I was supposed to be aborted, and so I don't think she was very happy with me after that conversation, but I'm so thankful that God gave me that moment the day before to prepare me and give me courage to speak in that moment, because I did have a good friendship with that woman, and I hope that she knows that that I love her so much, and that I don't think I did very good in that class, which I feel so awful about if she's watching this at this point. So it's like, how can she know if I love her if I didn't do so well in that class? But I do want her to know, oh my gosh, I love her immensely, and there's nothing in me that has any hatred towards her at all. I'd sit down and have coffee with that woman again, or if I could and stuff, but it's just to know that there's truly hope out there, and there are compassionate people, and to know that Barb in our lives and what she and her husband showed to us when they could have definitely have turned us away, and they didn't do that once. And being reunited with them, we were reunited with them around the same time last year with Barb, the woman who was with me and Mama when we were in our in our situation. She was our counselor, and God spoke completely through her and poured out through her heart into our lives. And to this day, in my whole entire life, she's touched. And I also grew up in youth group with kids where their parents donated heavily to Hope Resource. And I got to grow up with them, and I have memories of dancing with them to all fly away. And I have memories of laughing till we cried together. And I have memories with these people of sleeping over at their house and just being in complete peace and staring at the stars through their windows, because God gave me this chance to live and to live my life abundantly, and He didn't take that from me. And it is difficult to think that there are so many in our generation, but there is grace, and there is so much hope from this point, and this is a turning point. This is a turning point. This is a huge victory against Satan, and it's all Him. It is not these people and their anger. It is not these people and what they might not be able to see in this moment. All the evil is coming from Him. It is being initiated all by Him, and we have to remember He is our enemy. And there is a huge lie saying that He doesn't exist, that it is just the thoughts in our head bothering us, the things, it is Him. Just pray for the church. Pray for the church and abortion, and pray for the church to show compassion to the single mothers who are walking through the halls with their babies, and pray for those babies. Be there with those babies. Be there with those mothers. Be there with the mothers and fathers that have gotten brought into that allurement and that the deceitfulness of Satan in what he has initiated with what abortion is, and just be compassionate to those children. Oh, that the exact way that you interact with people will affect them for the rest of their lives. It doesn't have to be a heavy thing at all. It's an exciting thing. It's an exciting thing to know that the burden is easy and the yoke is light, and God will give you such immense abundant joy. That's where you're going to find the most immense abundant joy, is in those moments that you get to love on those people that are the most difficult to love. And the most that you're like, well, this is going to be a failure, this isn't going to work out. Know that those are the people you should be really being like, oh my gosh, I adore you. Because that's what Jesus was. He was the one where people were like, this is a disappointment. So know that those people. So that's all that I pray for the church to do.